In this lecture, we'll explore several Python string methods. They represent a text manipulation technique that differs from working with argument specifiers or special characters, but has a very broad application in its own right. That's why it's not a surprise that string methods are an essential part of the toolkit of every Python programmer, let alone data analyst or data scientist. Therefore, without further ado, let's get coding. What we'll do is create a string called s and use it to demonstrate several key types of manipulations. Let that initial string value be price per unit, where only the word price has been capitalized. All right. Oftentimes, you will want to just replace parts of a single or multiple string values. To do that, you can use the string replace method. Let's try replacing the word price with cost in our s string. In a new string called s1, we'll store the output obtained after using replace on s. We need to provide two arguments between the parentheses of the replace method. The first argument is the word we'd like to remove, price, and the second is our substitute word, cost. We should obtain the desired output. Let's run the cell and check. The result is cost per unit. Perfect. We can now move on to two related methods that play an essential part in the data selection process, in particular when assigning conditions. I'm referring to the starts with and ends with methods. We use them to check if a certain string begins or ends with the string that has been specified as an argument, respectively. Let's see how to apply them in practice. When we apply starts with to s1, we need to add an argument value between the parentheses. If it's cost, we'll obtain true. This confirms that our string s1 starts with the word cost. Please note that our output was true because we'd written cost with a capital letter. Don't forget that Python is case sensitive. If we retry with cost written in lowercase as an argument, we'll obtain false. This would also be the case for any string that doesn't coincide with the beginning of s1. For instance, checking if the relevant object starts with the word price will lead to an output of false. In the same way, ends with checks if a string object ends with a string argument provided between its parentheses. Please remember that this doesn't need to be an entire word. The method allows us to merely check for specific symbols presented in a certain order, which means we can execute ends with a string argument of nit, which will result in an output equal to true. Alternatively, you might want to see if the string in question ends with a word written in the plural. So you could add an s before the second quotes. However, checking for nits will logically result in obtaining false. Next, we'll discuss a method whose functionalities you need to internalize well. I'm talking about the split method. The split method splits the original string by a specified argument and returns a list containing the separate values. As usual, let's try an example. Think about s1 again. This variable currently contains the string cost per unit. By default, the split method separates its parts by a single whitespace character. It also executes the maximum number of splits possible and returns an output with the obtained string values. That's why, when applied on s1, the split method returns a list containing 3 string values, cost, per, and unit. Good practice suggests being explicit when using the split method. So we can rerun the same code cell with an argument of a whitespace character enclosed between a pair of single or double quotes. And we shouldn't forget to provide the whitespace character itself when using a string argument. An empty separator, which is different from providing a whitespace character as a separator, won't return the desired list. Alternatively, you may want to split the given object by an expression composed of several characters. Moreover, the whitespace character needn't necessarily be part of that sequence of characters. For instance, you can provide the preposition per as an argument. The relevant whitespace characters will remain in the output, and you'll obtain the words cost and unit stored in a list. Now, let's explore the second parameter of the split method. That's max split, which specifies the maximum number of splits you can obtain with this execution. If you set max split equal to 0, you'll obtain the entire expression. More precisely, this indication means that you want no splits to take place. Hence, this operation will result in a list containing 0 plus 1 strings. In other words, a single string. Moreover, the split has 2 parameters only, Therefore, it is common to omit the parameter name after the comma, and just provide the integer of interest. So, a white space character and a value of 0 between the parentheses will deliver the same result. Okay, what if we substitute that value of 0 with 1? That will mean we want a single split, resulting in 1 plus 1, or 2 elements, within the obtained list. What if the maximum number of splits is set to 2? Then we will execute 2 splits, resulting in a list containing 3 separate string elements. Please pay attention to the fact that if we specify a value for the second argument that is higher than the maximum number of splits possible, we won't obtain a different result. Therefore, whether we provide the value of 3 or 4 after the comma, we will still apply 2 splits and create a list containing 3 string values only. This is just the maximum we can obtain from the cost per unit string here. Great! Keep in mind that a whitespace character isn't the only character by which you can split a given string. Let Mr. John Wilson be the content of a variable we'll call S2. Also, let every word within that string be separated by a comma. So, applying the split method with an argument of a comma between quotes to the S2 object will deliver a list containing 3 strings, Mr., John, and Wilson, together with the whitespace characters preceding the 2 names. In this example, you could also apply an indexing operator. Specifying the positions of the first, second, or third elements within a pair of brackets written in the end will lead to Mr., John, and Wilson as an output, respectively. Excellent work on Python string methods so far. But that's not all. In the next lesson, we'll continue our exploration of Python string methods. See you there.